the term vibe coding kind of bothers me, to be honest. I don't like the term. It's the term, though. We have to use it because that's what people know. It's the term. I'm not going to fight the English language.
I think I want to make a distinction here. I think vibe coding is what some people do, and other people are doing like AI-empowered software engineering or something completely different. It's like using AI to build rather than just like, playing around with something that is never going to be able to make it to production.
I just built a site that would have taken me so long to build in Webflow without touching Webflow. This skill that I've been developing since, only Webflow, like 2018, 2019, I am using less and less and less, right?
The meta skills of like developing the taste, knowing how to structure projects in a good way, like all of the variables and classes and inheritance that you learn through Webflow, that kind of cascades into full stack software development as well. I mean, it's a bit more abstract with the full stack stuff with API routes. The principles are the same.
I think the people throughout history who fall behind are the people who are focused very specifically on their tool and not on the outcome of that tool.
If you continue to do that way, the world doesn't wait for you. It keeps going, and then eventually you'll find yourself in a completely different position.
You were in Italy. When were you in Italy, and how was that?
I was in Italy actually last year and the year before. So I spent quite a bit of time in the Dolomites. I love it up there, up in the mountains, hiking and, building websites and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've lived about 4 of the past 5 years outside of Australia. So I've kind of just come back and getting settled, and I'm really liking it because it's summer and life is a lot easier here than when you're darting around all the different countries in Europe. So.
Oh yeah. And also, I don't know how Australia is, but I imagine it's a lot more efficient. Like, I don't know if you had to, I don't know if when you were moving around, it was like, all right, so when I first came to Europe, I was kind of like bouncing around every 3 months. And so you never really have to deal with like bureaucracy or anything like that, which was amazing. Yeah. But once you settle more permanently and you have to deal with like these offices and this culture, because I'm from Canada, right? So in Canada, we're very efficient, things work on time. It's not all good. Don't get me wrong, but that is one thing I'm just like, I've come to expect. And Europeans, they just don't care. Like, they do things when they want.
It's like the technology is 20 years behind. My ex-girlfriend's from the Dolomites, and I saw her applying for university there. And it was like pre-CSS website that just, like, I had to open another browser to get... This one had a website just from the Stone Age, and you couldn't open it in one of the browsers because it just wouldn't work. And so I was like, we should probably swap browsers, and then it started working, but it's just a minefield, and
classic.
Better to avoid. Yeah.
Classic. I always think about this. So I was in Serbia for like 7 years. Like, I just came to Italy in July this year. And something that always makes me laugh that I think like captures life in Europe, really random, is on the toll booths when you leave, there's this sign and it literally says like, in case of any complaints, contact the responsible person, word for word. Like, who is that?
Who's the responsible person?
Nobody's responsible. I'll just contact nobody. But yeah, I mean, where else were you in Europe besides the Dolomites?
I was in Stockholm for 2 years. I was in the UK for a bit. And then I just bounced around kind of Budapest, Vienna, different cities.
Budapest is awesome.
Budapest is sick. I really liked it there. Vienna is very clean. For me, the Dolomites is small for if you want to be doing business locally. But if you're building websites freelance, it's amazing because you walk outside and you're just in mountains. And it's just incredible. And it's very central to Europe. So you could just go to Milan in a couple hours. And so I've been kind of around northern Italy, like Como and that. But I haven't really gone further south. And I never made it to Rome, unfortunately. Yeah.
And you never been to Malta, let me guess.
I've been to Malta, but in 2009. Yeah.
Because like I'm South Italian, my background, and I've been to Italy like, I live here now, but before this even, I'd been to Italy like 6 times, and I'd never been to like where my family is from because it's Calabria, right? It's like the far south. You have to really intend to go there, whereas usually I've come here, it's kind of like similar thing. Like you want to be in a more central location, bouncing around, whereas Calabria, you got to go like down.
Yeah. You got to seek it.
Yeah, well, Stockholm, like I've been pretty much everywhere in Europe except for the Scandinavian country. I've been to Iceland, but other than that, like no Denmark, no Norway. Iceland is sick. Have you ever been?
Yeah, no, but I've done the other 3.
Oh, how are they? How are they?
Stockholm as a city is incredible. The culture takes a bit of getting used to, but I was living and working in a hostel for 2 years there, kind of during COVID. So
Okay.
that was, I had a very international experience. Like there was Argentinians there was people from all over the world there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met a lot of people there. Norway for the fjords is just incredible. The nature there is
Yeah.
spectacular, and Copenhagen's cool. I haven't done much else of Denmark. I went up to the north of Sweden to the Arctic Circle to see the Northern Lights, which was incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so just bouncing around a bit.
That is awesome. Yeah, no, I have basically Western Europe, all the countries that people kind of typically go to. There's like the joke when North Americans are like, oh, Euro trip, and it's like France, Italy, UK.
Yeah, Prague.
Western European
Prague for the
countries, literally like world tour, and it's just like US, maybe Australia if you're lucky, and UK. And then I ended up actually, so I was super young when I went to Europe, because spent some time as a kid traveling, like with my parents, with my friends. And then I was in Canada, and I just basically didn't want to be there. Here's the thing about Canada. I've got some complaints about it. I have some complaints about every single country I've been to. You know, we're humans, we like to complain. But the thing about Canada that there's no flip side to is it's cold, dude. It's just there. I come from the most southern part of Canada, and it's just cold. And like, I didn't want to live in Canada, right? Like from probably
you got Calabrian blood. The heat is in your blood.
Dude, yeah, no, I can't. Like whenever I talk to Canadian, so actually it's funny. You probably saw at least one of the talks that I had with Connor Finlays, and he's from New Zealand. If you didn't know, he's from Germany originally. Like he's
really?
He's from New Zealand, but I think it was some sport. I'm forgetting now. It's somewhere in the video. But he was like raised in Germany and then went back to New Zealand. Now he lives in Canada. And so anytime, including my parents, I'm talking to anyone in Canada, I'm like, how do you deal with it? Like, I don't. I just stay inside for 6 months a year. And like, I did not want to do that. And I'd been to actually Budapest, and I loved it, especially because at the time I was kind of like, I was starting a Webflow agency. And I wanted to live somewhere that was really cool and really affordable as well. Because at that point in time, the thing is, if you are just starting your career, you can either chase the quickest money that you can get or the best long-term option. And if you live somewhere that's expensive, then, you know, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to like pay for groceries and all that stuff? So I was like, Budapest and eventually just wider Hungary seems like a good place to spend some time. And then I ended up going to Serbia because my co-founder at the time, he had like Serbian background, and it was a ride, man. Jeez. I spent a lot of time in Serbia. I speak Serbian. I have like a house there. And it's funny because like nobody goes to Serbia, dude. It's awesome. People should. It's underrated. But yeah, no, that's always a funny story.
Where were
like,
you, Belgrade or
Serbia? Someone's like, oh, like you're Serbian. I'm like, no. Your wife must be Serbian. No. Like, why are
How do you end up there? Yeah.
Literally, my co-founder's like, we were in South Hungary. He's like, go to North Serbia, see how you like it. At the time, dude, it was, let me put it this way. This was like, I was 17 years old and just arrived there with not too much money, but it was so cheap. It was like 300 euros a month for like rent in the city center.
Oh, that's insane.
Going out to eat with my wife, like breakfast was like 8 euros for both of us, coffee, food, everything. And so with very little money, we were able to live a really good life. It got way more expensive now, still like cheap from an international standpoint.
Relatively. But, global inflation is global inflation. It's
yeah, definitely. In some places it like Italy, the inflation hasn't been too bad because it was already quite expensive. Whereas in Serbia and a lot of other places, because it was cheap and then it's just catching up, it was like I think my grocery bill like went up like 3 times in like 2 years, like 3x. Wow. Yeah,
3x,
it was crazy. And so anyways, long story short, that's a story for another conversation. Ended up coming to Italy this year. And like you said, Okay, so a lot of people, it's like they want to move to like San Francisco, London, stuff like that. That's their life. Good for them. I respect it. But like the way I say, I work online, and a lot of things in the world and outside are very distracting. And the less distracted I am, the more work I can do and the better work I can do. I literally live in the middle of nowhere right now. No one
Yeah.
passes the house. No one talks to me. Nothing. And same thing. I literally just go outside and I got nothing but mountains.
Yeah, that's the way. I mean, this is a broader conversation, but what it taught me about living in the hostel and kind of volunteering my time for rent was that there's a lot of people out there that create communities with this kind of model, but there's nothing really that's kind of the main economic driver of that. But there's all of these abandoned or like run down places because there's no jobs there. If you just get a bunch of digital nomads or startups or any of that kind of thing there to pull money back to it, to build it up, that would be so cool to be around other people building stuff semi-remote in nature. Like that for me is the dream, rather than, for example, a house in the suburbs of a city somewhere that you can buy a castle in France for the price that you could buy a house in Melbourne,
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, you can literally get a chateau and just fill it with people and build,
Yeah, I agree. Like okay, so Italians, and again, I have no idea if this is going to get included, but I'm just having a fun time talking. So we'll get to business. But like in Italy, the demographic trend is like all the villages are just dying. The one I'm in right now, I think it was like 550, 600 people maybe 20 years ago. Now it's like 300, 350.
Wow.
Because first of all, Italians don't have much kids. Second of all, the ones that they do have, they move to the cities to look for opportunities. And like, here's the thing, I understand that you're, young person growing up, like you got to work. You want to make your own life. And if there's no jobs, you can't do that. But the crazy thing to me is when people who work, again, their life, I'm sure they have many reasons for doing it, but like they work in the same kind of thing that we do. They work remote and they like pay rent in an apartment in a city center. I don't get it at all.
I don't get it either.
Like this is the fact that I can do this is phenomenal. Like I think people are leaving these areas and going to cities not because they want to, but because they have to. And their life is going to be better. They're going to have a better job. They're going to have more freedom and all that stuff. But like, dude, if you can, it's so nice. It's so peaceful. It's amazing.
I agree. And I think it changes as you get older as well. I think cities are cool when you're young, if you have disposable income, because you can go to concerts. Like Melbourne gets, a lot of bands and it's got a nightlife and it's got little different boroughs with different cultures. So you can really get to experience a lot in a small surface area.
Yeah.
But then as you get older and you're like, I don't really want to go to bars, or I don't really want to, go see live music that much. I would rather be just immersed in nature. But if I'm going to do that, I would pick like epic nature. And then for me, that's where I look back to the Dolomites and I'm like, I could just walk outside from the library where I used to set up my laptop, and you're just in this old little town and there's mountains everywhere. And if it's, one of the spring or autumn, you've got snow-capped mountains.
Yeah.
And it's like the light is beaming and I get this overwhelming sense of like calm immediately, which I don't get living in a city.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's and I'm seeking that more as I get older.
Yes, I'm pretty young, but like I kind of just speed ran life, so I feel a lot older than I am. But same thing, like we were in the city, it was nice, like restaurants and all this stuff, and then around COVID, we stopped going out because we literally could not go out. And I think that was what really changed things to the point where I'm like, okay, I want to kind of optimize what's around me. Ended up getting a house, but where my house is in Serbia, like there's no natural beauty. It's flat. It is literally as flat as it gets. It is as flat as a table. And so now that we've come here, like that feeling of literally just walking outside and having like breathtaking nature is unbeatable. And now I would look at view more than anything when finding a place to live, because I'm loving this. Anyways, if you do come to Italy, especially if you're I'm like, where Marche is? It's like central.
Central.
Okay, so You know, like Emilia Romagna, like Bologna.
Bologna, yeah, yep.
Yeah. So Bologna, 3 hours south
Okay.
by car. So if you're in Italy, let me know. And
Well,
on that note, not on that note, what have you been, not what have you been building lately, but we're both Webflow guys. Like background, what
yeah.
you're doing. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because I've had a few interactions with you, and like every single time I feel like you're just taking words out of my mouth, which
Yeah,
best
same.
possible way. So what I want to know, like I had this whole like arc that transitioned me to the point where right now mostly what I'm doing is building stuff with Claude Code. I would love to know like what brought you to where you are and the tools that you're using right now. So like
Okay.
flashback, you're all in on Webflow at some point, mostly
Okay.
in Webflow.
So maybe okay, I'll start from maybe a little bit further back where I was a mechanic and
Really?
was yeah. So I'm
That's awesome.
33, and
Okay.
so I started life out going to uni, quit uni, and then I was like, well, I may as well do a mechanic apprenticeship because I always loved cars.
Yeah.
And then I realized very early on that I wanted some sort of geographical freedom and financial independence, and so my pathway to that was to go do electrical electronics engineering. And I did a degree in that. And then I started trying to pitch my honors project, but I was doing technical presentations. And the startup design system was like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you need to tell us, like, who your customers are, like, what's the problem that you're solving, and speak in this kind of like pitch language, basically. And I was like, well, I need UI mockups. So I started getting into Figma and Webflow and trying to build my websites. And I stumbled across Webflow as part of that process of trying to figure out how to communicate this idea. And then I was like, oh, this is actually really cool, because if I can build a website, I can then earn money from building a website. And that kind of is a gateway to the geographical freedom, financial independence thing.
Yeah.
And then simultaneously, I'm developing the skills to take the ideas that I have in my mind and bring them into reality.
Yeah.
And so I started with Webflow in 2019, I think. I did like all of Maguire's Webflow University stuff, loved it. I was doing that before work, so in the mornings.
Yeah.
And then I would wake up excited to learn because those videos are so good. And then, fast forward a little bit, I knew how to build them. I did Rand Seagal's courses
Yeah.
as well. I did a free project for a client, like one of my friends, from strategy all the way through to design and dev. Then I started charging, and that's exactly when kind of COVID hit, when I was in Sweden. And so fortunately, I was able to support myself with doing the volunteering at the hostel. And then I met my friend and one of my business partners, and he had an agency that needed Webflow work. And so I started doing more development sites. And then I picked development more than design. And then fast forward a few years, I've done like a bunch of those Webflow projects. AI comes out, and then I'm like, I had this redirect project for one of my bigger client sites. And I was like, spent 3 hours mapping 300 redirects. And so I just jumped in Chat GPT, and I got it to write a script after I'd done, and it did it in like 30 seconds. And I was like, I can productize this. And I think this is initially how I found you, through MemberStack, because Rapid 301, if you've seen it, has MemberStack as the auth.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got more into the SaaS side of stuff. And then I was like learning JavaScript and SvelteKit and all of that kind of stuff on the side. And then Cursor came, and from there I've just gone like really deep into more of the technical SaaS stuff, because I find it more of like a problem solving thing. I find it more enjoyable, and it's just what you can build now with Cursor, if you know how to prompt and you know how to architect things.
Yeah.
Is just mind blowing.
It is.
So,
I guess, so I was originally like a freelancer and first of all, I just want to say, have you noticed how cool everyone's story who is a Webflow developer is? Like, it's not, okay, if you're a developer, it's like, I finished high school, got good grades, went to like get a CS degree, and then I got a job at like Meta, and there you go. All right. We all know that. I feel like everyone who does Webflow has like some cool like transition from this into that landed them in that point. I was doing freelance like for literally just any client that wanted anything on a computer. Basically, that was kind of my motto. It's like, you want Google Ads, I can do it. You want SEO, I can do it. You want Squarespace, I can do it. WordPress, I can do it. And I just kind of learned on the go. And I ended up having a client who was like, it was like a white label thing. Guy was a marketing freelancer. His client needed a website. I did that in WordPress. It went well, but like there were some issues definitely. But anyways, he ended up showing me Webflow. And I was like, this is sick, because I was basically switching back and forth between like Squarespace and Wix on one hand and then WordPress on the other hand. On the Squarespace and Wix side of things, I'm like, it's very easy and very fast. But as soon as a client asks for something, or I want to do something a little bit more crazy,
custom, you just can't. Yeah.
Literally can't. And this was obviously before AI, before anything. So it's like you could embed some code, but like I wasn't embedding any code at that point in time. And then you had WordPress, where anything's possible, but doing anything is hard. I actually have a WordPress stack that I use now when I use WordPress. And I think WordPress is underrated, especially in our industry where everyone thinks it's a dinosaur. It's pretty cool, but especially back then, like using like Divi and Elementor, like the old version, it was basically two terrible sides. And so as soon as I was shown Webflow, I was like, small learning curve relatively. I can do anything that I want to do without having to learn how to code, get some crazy plugins, anything like that. So I was completely all in on that. So I started thinking I was a designer. I eventually realized I'm not the most creative person when it comes to like creation. I'm not an ideas guy. I'm a solutions guy. You give me a problem and I will find the most creative way to solve it. But if you're like, come up with something, I don't know. And so basically loved Webflow, really fell in love with Webflow for the sole reason that I can build good things how I want to really quickly. So fast forward, once ChatGPT started to get popular at all, like GPT-3, I was like, obviously I had a lot of Webflow sites where we would need some sort of custom script and I'd have to talk to, some developer to get that written up. So when GPT-3 comes around, I'm like, wait, I can just get these scripts written with AI. This is amazing. And so I started adding all these Webflow sites. I started making these things called member scripts for MemberStack, which is basically just like custom code snippets that do things. That was how that started. I was so excited that I could build scripts with GPT-3.
Yeah, because the logic, but the syntax and all of that was the barrier. Same for me. Yeah.
Yes, like I had spent at that point, 4 or 5 years already in Webflow constantly. And the crazy thing is I had never really set out like I'm going to learn how to code or anything. But just from using Webflow, and this is why I think Webflow is so amazing, I can write very, very easily HTML, CSS for anything. I know exactly how it works, how it functions. I can write it by hand, no problem. Does that skill do anything for me right now? Absolutely not. Do I do it? Absolutely not. But like I learned that just from using Webflow. And over the years, finding people's like code snippets on Stack Overflow and trying to like Frankenstein stitch them together in any possible way that I could. I learned how JavaScript works. Again, you sit me down syntax wise, I can't do anything. There will be so many errors in my code, it will not function. But like, I know how to describe what I want. And so naturally, GPT-3 comes around. I was able to use it.
Just unlocked.
Literally new superpower unlocked. I was super hyped. And so from that point, I was like all in on using AI to build stuff. And things have progressed as we've seen. It went from like, I can hack together some scripts that maybe aren't the best, but they get the job done. Slowly started kind of hacking together like little SaaS projects with it. And then so I started using Cursor. And that was when I was like, I can actually build complete products at this point. That was like the paradigm shift. It was Cursor. Using Cursor for a while, but I still felt like there's only so many things that I can do. And that's a mixture of the models and just the way that Cursor works. It's like, let's say it's IDE first, AI second, in the sense that as soon as you start to get into complex things, I started to feel like I was just out of my depth. I don't think Cursor necessarily would be like that at this point in time, but I'm talking like May 2025 kind of thing. So if I was able to grasp, let's say, how something would be structured, how a project would look, where certain things would be held. I was able to do it in Cursor. But as soon as it was like there was some uncertainty there, I felt like I was kind of out of my depth. And so
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I started using Claude Code in like June, July, and that was when things really started to pick up for me, where I'm like, oh, I can actually build basically anything. Opus came out, dude, and
Opus just crushes everything.
everything. I have not once. Okay, so I literally yesterday, so starting 2 days ago, ending yesterday, start to finish, built a full on. I mean, it's free, but it's like a SaaS. I'll show you it actually. And the reason that I built it was when you have a product, you got to try competitors, right? You got to understand what other tools are doing. You can think that your tool is amazing, but until you've tried other things. So example, Webflow with AppGen, and I talked to the team at Webflow. They're working on it. I'm really hopeful for the future of Webflow's AI tools, but right now, I think they're a bit tricky, right? And what I wanted to say about that is like, if you're on the Webflow team and you don't use, let's say, Claude Code or anything like that, you can pop open AppGen and be like, this is the coolest thing ever. Because a year ago, it would have been. But now...
but where's the knife's edge? Like, where's the cutting edge, right?
Exactly. And so what I ended up doing was I was testing Supabase to try to do something. And like, here's the thing. What I'm about to show you, I... literally, like, how this functions, I kind of get it at this point, but like, dude, I wouldn't have been able to build this. So basically, I did like all the cute little, I have a corgi, that's why there's a corgi there, but the branding and all that stuff. This is a product where basically you connect your Gmail. So I am like notoriously bad with checking my emails. Everyone in MemberStack knows if you send me an email, I'm not going to get it. But I'm like very good with Slack. I have inbox zero every single day. I respond to people quickly and all that stuff. So I set up this product basically that like reads your emails when you get a new email. If it's important, it sends you a notification on Slack immediately. Other than that, it gives you a digest of everything that you've got. So it uses Gemini 3 to look at everything, write one line item for each email, because I don't just want a product that like decides what's important and what's not and doesn't show it to me. Figma releases a new feature. I want to know. Webflow releases a new feature. I want to know. Claude, I want to know. Gotcha. All of that. So like, I want to know what's going on in my inbox and I want to mark it as read. And so that is what this does. And anyways, what I really wanted to say here is like, it connects to your Gmail, reads your Gmail, then connects to Slack, then sends you a Slack message, builds all the Slack blocks to get the message formatted and all that stuff. That's insane. Like, I don't know how to build that, but the fact that literally, dude, idea happened, I want to say like 8 p.m. on Tuesday night. And by 4 p.m. yesterday, it's like, it's on a custom domain. It's done with one big caveat. And that's the thing. So once we're at a point now where anything is possible to build, what are the blockers? So I do this, I connect with the like Gmail APIs and everything like that. I go to submit it for approval to Google and I get an email last night and it's like, oh, because of the information that you're accessing, you need to get like some security certification. It takes about 6 months to complete and all this stuff. I'm like, I just built an app, the whole thing in a day, branding, idea, start to finish. And now you're talking about a 6-week security review. What even is this? And so like, that's where I feel like the blocker is right now. First of all, how do you come up with ideas? And second of all, this stuff, security, compliance, and all of that stuff. It's not easy. No matter how great Claude Code, Cursor, any of these agents, models get, that stuff still exists. So that's kind of what's interesting me now is like, how can we bypass that? The blocker is no longer the code, you know?
Yeah, 100%. There's a few things, I mean, a lot to unpack there. For me, you said kind of Cursor was like a revolutionary moment. Yeah. Back in 2025. For me, I had that as well. Plus then MCPs coming out. MCPs, I think I've seen like things, MCPs are dying. I have no idea why people are saying that because the Supabase and Stripe MCPs out of control.
We're going to talk about MCPs in just a minute. Yeah. Continue.
And like I have built many different kinds of things with Cursor. I built native apps. I built web apps with different stacks and stuff. I'm using SvelteKit Supabase at the moment. Yeah. For everything. And I'm basically putting blockers onto anything else that's out there. Like Claude Code came, everyone's talking about that. I'm like crushing it with Cursor. I'm like, I'm just going to stick with that. The thing that I like about Cursor is that I can see the folder structure and I can ensure that it's adhering to, like, it's not writing inline SVGs. It's always componentizing them into icons and then importing the icons, and it's nicely structured and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really liking that, but I've never tried Claude Code because I don't know if it's one of those things that's going to be like a 10x improvement on what my current workflow is. And there's so much noise. I'm finding it very hard to I see that other people are finding it very hard to stick with a single thing. And I think that in this age, it's just like, if you have something that's working, just keep building it. And then the question is what to build. And what I'm finding at the moment, I'm essentially not building anything for web developers or any kind of tools for digital tools anymore for people, because they can be very quickly built and they don't require the kind of people that will be building tools to replace SaaS products are people that can build the tools, which is devs. Yes. So if that makes sense. And so what I've got a couple of SaaS products at the moment. One of them is for small builders. It's just a form kind of collector. When you go into a building site in Australia, you need to submit some information, and small builders don't have like the resources to do all that. So they just scan a QR code and, fill out a form, and then it emails the builder, and then it saves it into the builder's dashboard. That, to circle back to what you're saying about Webflow being a really good front end, like learning tool. I had that originally built in Xano, which kind of taught me back end visually.
Yes.
And similarly to Webflow, they've got like their kind of visual tools first and then AI second.
Yeah.
And after the Supabase MCP came out and I built a few things with that, I ended up rebuilding the whole back end of that from Xano to Supabase and doing the database migration pretty quickly, actually, with Cursor. I think it was about $500 in credits though. But one week of like full time, just like, going at it. But it was quite a large kind of database to migrate over. And then there's the whole security audit stuff, which I find very useful with Cursor as well, to kind of get it to probe things and try and attack it. And then, put in fixes to prevent that, rate limiting, all those sorts of things. Yeah. The next one was another industry kind of expert who I also happen to be related to. Was like, I have this problem. Like all of these AI scribes they're like doing like this half of the equation, but they're not doing this half of the equation. He's like, I've got a system in my mind. And he came to me with like a sheet of paper and a business plan, and was basically like, what do you think about this? And I was like, I kind of started, like, I'd had him go to Bolt before to like build a game idea. And it got to a point where all vibe coding projects get when someone non-technical does it, where you're just going in circles. And it's like you fix one thing and it just breaks something else. And then, you don't know how to diagnose it. It's hard coding values in like an object rather than pulling them from the database, all of this kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I just went over and installed Cursor and Supabase and Docker, like got all of it set up on his machine. And then it was the first time I used plan mode of Cursor with Opus. And I got it to summarize his ChatGPT discussion into an MVP, and I paste it in plan mode. And I don't like using the term one-shotted loosely, but the MVP was essentially working within one prompt, but it needed a lot of refinement. And so, like I'm finding to take something from that's like I would say a full featured version 1 thing from like 0 to 1, for me takes about 4 to 5 weeks. That's like website, full-fledged SaaS product, all the database stuff sorted, like the security, branding, all of that. And I can share, because I just put it live last night.
And
there we go.
I can almost see it. Now I can see it. Okay.
Cool. So I had the whole like app kind of thing built, and we're like, we should probably build a website. And one of the things that I never thought of ever doing was building something like this, which is essentially a minified version of the app as an animation. But the crazy thing is, because Cursor had full context of the app itself, it just built it all with div blocks.
Yep.
So all of this is just from within Cursor having context of the app and me basically saying, hey, you've done a great job with this component here. Now just do a minified version of the whole app flow and put it in the hero section. And after 3 extra prompts, it came out with essentially something that I think does a pretty good job of conveying what the app is.
It's beautiful.
Thanks. And I was blown away by it. I can't take credit for telling Opus to do it. I kind of find it funny that it's almost like just giving direction to something. And as long as the direction is sound and the like hypothesis of whatever the debugging thing is relatively correct, it will do the heavy lifting, provided it's given the right context.
Yeah.
Another cool thing, like light and dark mode, which I would never normally bother with because it's so good with knowing the variables. It's I haven't even thought about this once really, and it's throughout the whole app. You've got like all of this stuff was just like one prompt and a bit of a padding thing there.
It happens. It happens.
It happens. This is about 10 hours, I think.
Like, this is beautiful. And this is kind of the thing. So me, you, quite a few people have been building web apps with Cursor, with Claude Code for a little while. But the marketing side of things, for a long time, especially last year, a lot of what I've been talking about is like AI has come so far, but it's the visual aspect that we're so far behind in. Whereas now I just rebuilt the member stack site with it. And very similarly, I, with a few prompts with Claude Code, was ending up with these animations where I'm like, okay, so my big blocker when it comes to Webflow sites has been these like micro interactions, animations showing how the product works, because like I'm either going to have to take, hey, how long would it take you right now? Give me an estimate to build that animation in Webflow. I know you could do it, but how long would it take you?
If I wind it back, I wouldn't have even come up with the idea to put it there because it was such a blocker.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't think to build that because it would take longer than the website most likely to build just that hero animation.
Bingo. But if you ask me, those are the things that make a website great.
Special.
Not just good,
me too.
but great, because I can see how your product works in a couple seconds. I don't need to read your hero. I don't need to read your feature section. I can literally look at it and see how it works. And that is the amazing thing that we're now able to do. That is brand new. That's like Opus came out and that became unlocked to me. And that site looks so good. Like this is the thing right here. So, okay, I understand, we're Webflow developers. If you are working with a large SaaS company, they have in-house designers and they send you a Figma file. Well, how would that flow go to, let's say, build that out in Cursor? I don't know. Would it be good? Is it there yet? I don't know, because I don't work in that way. I work in the way of I have just like you. I have a product. I need to make something to communicate this, and it needs to look good. And I have been able to get such nice sites built at this point with it. And I didn't.
One you showed me, the email one and the member stack one, are both amazing. So
they're so nice, and that's the thing.
So nice, man.
I can't take credit, but this is the direction that we're heading in. It's like you have the direction. Here's the thing. I can tell from everything that you just explained, and also the way that I feel, I don't like to take credit for AI's work. And I can tell you feel the same. But what I'm going to ask you right now is take someone else, even someone in our industry, and try to have them explain what they want. That is really what's going to become the blocker and what's going to separate people who are efficient with these tools from people who aren't. Like, you're clearly very good at articulating what you want. I can literally quantify that based on the website that you just showed me, because I know you can't just say, build me a site for my product and end up with something like that. You can't. You have to say, I want a hero section that explains this in this order, shows these things. You look at it. I don't know what experience you had building these animations, but for me, it was like, explain what I want. I got the animation and it's really cool, but it needs refinement. Some things are just off somehow. And I have to like explain these things. Not a lot of people can do that. And I think that's really, someone who's skilled, like a developer, all throughout time, has been so much more skilled than me in building things because they have the patience to learn. I don't have the patience to learn. I just want to jump in and do. But my ability to articulate what I want is very good. And I think we're heading to a time really where that's the superpower, is your ability to communicate and articulate things. So I want to jump back as well to what you were saying about like tools, jumping back and forth. There's so much noise. Like, that's the thing. Exact same thing for me. I was using only Cursor, keep hearing about Claude Code. Friend Alex is like, dude, Claude Code, tongue twister. Like, shut up. I don't want, like, I'm building. It's working. It's good for me. And now even in the Claude Code space, you have all these people talking about like, you need to be running these like autonomous loops and whatever, dangerously skip professors, whatever it may be. I'm building, it's working for me, cut out the noise. But at the same time, when we see how fast things are changing, let's say you were using like GPT 4.5 and then Opus 4.5. Okay, was it even GPT 4.5 or am I just hallucinating that? But
I think there was.
There was
they changed the numbers so quick.
4.0. That's what I was thinking of. Okay. So and then Opus 4.5 comes out and it's like you want to switch to what works the best, but you want to cut out the noise. And there's a very, very fine balance. My recommendation to you and to anyone who might be watching this who primarily uses Cursor, hears about Claude Code and you're like, Cursor just works for me, is this. So some people use Claude Code, like non-technical people especially, just like raw dog Claude Code, like no IDE, they don't know what's going on, period, none of that. I heavily don't recommend that. I think if you want to build anything serious, you kind of have to know what's going on to an extent. And that's shrinking by day. My setup is Claude Code is my agent. I don't know how to explain it to you. I have free Claude Code guest passes. Can I send you one so you can try it?
You can send me one.
Yes.
I'll try and give it a try.
The agent. You know how you were saying that kind of like that point where you get in a vibe coded project where you're running in circles and fixing one problem breaks another problem. That just doesn't happen with Claude Code, with Opus 4.5, with the agent at all. Like never. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, so I've got Cursor open, looking at the files. If I want to change any code manually, I'm doing that in Cursor, but I use Claude Code as my agent. So you could actually, like there's a Claude Code plugin.
Interesting.
And you can, in Cursor, have Claude Code running. It's the agent. That's the power of Claude Code, the agent and nothing else.
Gotcha. See, I've never had it explained like that. I've only seen people saying like, oh, I just use the command line to do stuff and I don't have an IDE anymore. And whenever I built projects that start getting quite complex, I've got hundreds of icons. I have a mono repo that has the app and the website. So they've got shared context, Supabase is in the top. I got to go in, start Docker, because I love Supabase local development, even though it used to freak me out. Once I got over all of these little barriers, I'm feeling very comfortable with knowing what's there, because if I see something that's happening, I also know how to diagnose where the problem is, and then I can give Cursor like the specific context of where it's coming from. And that's something that I've found, at least with the Cursor agent, sometimes it won't pinpoint it. For example, it will create duplicate API routes, or with SvelteKit, I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but you have like a server.js file basically for every page that you've got. And if you've got functionality, let's say to delete a project on the project's page, and that delete thing that calls Supabase is in the page route, and then you ask it to do a delete project from another page, it will create another function, which is problematic if you think about adding one thing to the project, and then something happens and you're out of sync with the API. So I'm often seeing that I need to, if I notice that I'm going to do that and like lift something higher, I just create a dedicated API route and then get it to, update how it's calling it. How does Claude Code go with stuff like that?
Okay,
that so for me is the biggest benefit of Cursor.
That right there, when it comes to like just doing things that you look at and you're like, no, why are you doing that? Claude Code doesn't do it. I mean, super, super rarely. Like you can go through a full like 10-hour, I'm on like the $200 max plan, so like my limits are absurd. So that's one thing as well. I don't know how long this is going to last, but like right now, pay $200 a month and you get virtually unlimited usage. I probably use about 700 to 800 a month of tokens, and I only pay 200 a month.
Okay, I should make the switch just from that, because I'm on the Cursor 200, and it's like I go above it.
Yeah, so I never have gone above it, and I've maybe once ever hit the limit. And when I hit the limit, it was because I had like 4 terminals open at the same time running Claude Code. You can have one running 24/7 and you will not hit the limits. So that alone is huge. But that thing right there, the only way I can describe Claude Code with Opus 4.5 is it just gets it. All of those things where you just cringe and you're like, why are you doing that, other agent? Why? Claude Code doesn't do it. And at the same time, so my philosophy has always been this. If you're talking especially to a developer about vibe coding, and the term vibe coding kind of bothers me, to be honest. I don't like the term. It's the term, though. We have to use it because that's what people know. It's the term. I'm not going to fight the English language.
I want to make a distinction here. I think vibe coding is what some people do, and other people are doing like AI empowered software engineering or something completely different. It's like using AI to build rather than just like, playing around with something that is never going to be able to make it to production.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
I wholeheartedly agree. And if I had the power to change what people said, it would basically be that. But like, you know who Linus Torvalds is? Like the creator of Linux, like legendary engineer. It was like very kind of in the news the other day. Like he was building something with Google Anti-Gravity, which I haven't used. I don't know if it's good, but and he referred to what he was doing as vibe coding. And it's like, shit, dude, this term stuck. I don't like this term. I don't think it captures it whatsoever. Because I agree. Some people are literally just like, build me something. And whatever happens, they just kind of go with it and they take it as far as they can get it. They're just chilling. It's like playing a video game. When, not to try and say like I'm doing something crazy and amazing, but when I'm building something, I am supervising Claude the entire time. As soon as something pops up that Claude is doing and I don't know what it's doing or why it's doing it, I stop and I say, why are you doing it?
Me too.
And so here's the thing.
You got to.
You have to much less with Claude Code, I will say, and I'm very excited for you to try it and get your feedback because
you're making me excited to try it now.
Like that was the one thing. So my friend Alex was explaining to me for I think 2 months, you got to use Claude Code. You got to use Claude Code. And the thing that convinced me, and I've said this to so many people, it's hilarious, is he's like, Cursor, like lane assist in cars, where like it just kind of turns your wheel for you if you're going over the edge. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's what Cursor is. I'm like, okay. He's like, now think about full autonomous driving. All right. It's like, that's Claude Code. The most like high level, like esoteric, means nothing statement I've ever heard. And I'm like, you've got me convinced.
I got it.
He was right, dude. But what I was going to say is like, developers will often be like, yeah, you can't vibe code a serious product. Again, vibe code, I'm going to have to say it. Serious product, because what if something breaks and you don't know what's wrong? Like, here's the thing. I know the files in my project. If I have an API route, first of all, when I get an error, I pop open the console or my server logs and it tells me what is the error, where the error is coming from. X failed. Okay. I know where that file is. When I then open that file, typically AI can figure out based on like 99% of the time, AI can very quickly figure out based on the error in the file, what's going on, what the problem is. But if not, then I probably can see something that's weird. That's another thing. You don't need to like be a syntax expert. When you see that something is failing, for example, let's say I'm making like an API request to OpenRouter and it says in the model field, it's like GPT-7. There's my problem. I don't need to be like some sort of, hacking into the mainframe like pro.
Yeah, just the numbers wrong. And interestingly, that error message probably wouldn't be so detailed if it was written by inexperienced human programmer, because that's the stuff that when I was doing software dev with just GPT and copy pasting and using tutorials to build, the error stuff was the stuff that is the stuff that you don't really do because you're busy trying to get it working.
Yes.
And the ability to diagnose more complicated things in larger projects is made so much easier with error logs. And it does such a great job at putting good error logs that you can all like, maybe I'll need to do it less when I start using Claude Code, but copy paste it from the terminal into like the agent and you just like, here's the error. And it's like, okay, let me just check this, and this, and then it's like, it's fixed. It's like mislabeled something for the database or something like that, which I don't even know how it does. And it sounds like Claude Code doesn't do. So I'm excited for that.
So I'm so excited for you to try Claude Code. I want to go back now to what you said about MCPs, because I have the exact same, it might be shifting a little bit, but I have the exact same thing. MCPs were a paradigm shift for me. So I, shocker, use MemberStack a lot. And the thing is, when I started like building products more with Cursor and with Claude Code, I'm like, the big blocker was, and it's silly to even say this, but the fact that I had to go into MemberStack, create plans, do this, copy stuff from MemberStack, put it into Claude Code, put it into Cursor. That was my blocker, and it was just super, super slow. And so I really wanted to make sure we got an MCP server. And team, not me, I didn't build out the MCP server, but our team made the MCP server. Shout out Josh specifically for that one. And that was the paradigm shift, because at that point in time, I connect it and I tell Claude, I want a $30 a month plan. I want this route to be gated for pro subscribers. I want whatever. And it became human language to configure this stuff, and changed everything, dude, especially when it comes to more complicated stuff. So for example, Supabase, I've heard so many good things about their MCP. Same thing, our MCP, MemberStack MCP with our new data tables feature is like so much easier, because you tell Claude to build something, and then it's just like, now save the data in MemberStack, and it does it instead of having to go on, create 5 different tables with 8 different fields in each one, and then make sure it's synced up and send the IDs. It just has context of all of this stuff. So then I start to hear in the development world, people talking about MCPs are done. It's the end of MCPs. I'm like, all right, I have a comparison that I make frequently, and I've made on the channel many times. Think of it like straws. So plastic straws are bad for the environment. I don't think anyone's arguing that. We know they are. And so what's the solution? Paper straws. It melts into my mouth and my drink. I don't want that shit. Like, I don't.
Exact same thing. You need 2 of them.
You literally
to get through a big drink.
Mid-drink, when I take a sip of my McDonald's Diet Coke and I get a piece of cardboard in my mouth, a piece of me dies on the inside. And so the point is, we know that we need a better solution. MCP haters, their conclusion is that it like chugs context, and it does. It uses a lot of context, the protocol itself. Anthropic has improved that lately from what I've heard, but it uses context, right? So fine. What's the solution? Going back and clicking the buttons myself? I don't want to do that. I don't like that. It's not good. Similar to the straws. It's like, we all agree that this problem needs to be resolved, but give me something better. And nobody's able to explain this to me. That's the thing. So I
don't understand it. After having the Supabase MCP set up a bunch of stuff for Supabase, I had to rebuild that thing from Xano because I couldn't figure out how to quickly get the MCP working from Xano, and I was never going back to dragging and dropping stuff again. And I loved working with Xano and it's I would say similar with Webflow. I love Webflow as well, and I still build a lot of sites on Webflow for clients because the CMS is great and it's great for getting pixel perfect things. And I think there's a lot of space for it still there. But if it comes to me taking an idea out of my head and implementing it, the fastest thing is full code. Sounds like Cursor in conjunction with Claude Code, because it can do everything. It has full context with no pointing and clicking as a bottleneck.
Yeah.
And especially with stuff like database configuration, like there's a lot of fields in some databases. Like I've got, projects with 12, 15 tables and different complex relationships between them. Things like, for example, with this site that I showed you, there was a problem that we had with creating when a user is created and we want that user to be a part of an organization. So it needs to default create an organization, but then they can also be added to organizations. All of that logic is very well, like AI loves writing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And configuring that in a no-code tool, I wouldn't really know all of the syntax stuff to do, like that I need to do, and all the quirks of the specific no-code platforms that there are. And I have some like quirks with Webflow, for example, is like the W class that gets applied to things, that sometimes you need to like use a important CSS thing to override that to get an effect. Like those kind of quirks you just don't get natively. And so you spend a lot more time just focusing on going down the critical path than like getting stuck at any kind of little thing that you don't know the quirk of the platform.
Yeah, exactly. That is something where, so we migrated our site over, and a whole bunch of people, naturally, understandably, asked me, like, what was stopping you in Webflow? Like, what was the problem? Why did you do it? That kind of thing. And my explanation for that is like, it's not anything. It's not you, it's me. No, I'm kidding. It's not anything that Webflow did. Like, Webflow is the same. In fact, it's a better product than it was before. The same thing that blew my mind 7 at this point years ago. But once you switch to something where you don't have to think about each and every detail, you can't go back. You just it's painful. Like, it feels, even though it's the same thing that you would have called fast a year ago, it feels painfully slow. And so, but there is one thing, especially when it comes to client sites, especially when it comes to bigger companies, that I fully understand, and that is visual editing. Being able to easily and understandably, in a way that, like, our new site that's just fully built with Claude Code, I love it. It's so easy to edit, especially big updates are a dream. But you've got those situations where, like, got a sticky nav bar and I want to put like a little pencil banner like above it or below it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I tell Claude to do it, and it puts it behind it where I can't see it. And I'm like, okay, here's what you got to do, buddy. The bar needs to be static and it needs to be positioned above this. And then it puts it in front of it. And I'm like, this would have been so much easier in Webflow. Have those moments. And so here's the thing. People who are using Claude Code, Cursor, like, you've got your developers who they build out the bulk of their work with these tools, and then they can go in, refine them perfectly in the way that they see fit. But when you have people like us, let's say, who we can edit the code in the way that we see fit, but it's not the fastest or the most comfortable. That's why we use Webflow. And so Webflow, I see it as the easy builder for professionals. I think that's really how they differentiated themselves in the market from
100%.
Back in the day, you'd hear people be like, oh, like drag and drop builder, Webflow. Nobody talks about that anymore because they've successfully set themselves apart. It's like, we are that, but for pros who actually care about the quality of their work. And so I think Webflow has such an opportunity right now to be the, basically, not that I think they should focus on being like an AI first tool or anything, but to be that for AI, as in, you can build things perfectly fast with AI, but when it's not enough for you for something to just be close to what you envisioned, you want perfection. I think that is what that's what I think Webflow should be doing at this point in time. Yeah. I want to jump back super quick to MCPs, and then I just noticed the time, and it's late for you, so I don't want to keep you too long. No one has told me about the alternative. So I have been like shamelessly and proudly just like, I am all in on MCP because I don't know of a better way to do this. And so when I was testing out Supabase yesterday, I did not use any MCP. Instead, I just used the CLI. And basically, very good documentation plus CLI gives you a similar outcome to what MCPs give you. And I kind of see that now. No one's explained that to me. That's the thing. So people want to talk about MCPs are bad. I've never heard someone say MCPs are bad, but what MCPs give you are good, and here's how you can do that better. As soon as someone says that, I'm in.
Yeah. So I haven't really used it for getting documents. Like, I don't really use it for like, hey, give me all of the Supabase stuff. I'm using the MCP I develop locally, so my code has context of the database structure locally in a migration. So when it's making changes, it's doing that, and then I restart it locally. But where I find it really interesting is if, for example, you want to pull data from the like live production database and run scripts on it, for example, it will write all of the queries. It will pull that data. It can update it, which you obviously have to be careful with, because I have seen someone get their database wiped a long time ago. I don't know if you heard that. But for example, I find it also useful for that migration. I migrated 2 gigabytes of data from Xano to Supabase in buckets, and all of the scripts were written based on the files from Xano and the Supabase like database structure. And I used the MCP to populate it. So it did all of it. Well, it actually wrote the scripts that then populated it, and then I got it to double check stuff. So it like goes back in and it's like, yeah, everything's fine. Another one that I had was that I was using signed like 30-day timeout URLs for a file, and I saved it in the buckets as with the whole URL, which someone basically said, hey, like I'm unable to access this file. And so I I thought that I'd already ran something on that and removed it, but it was the ones that came over from the migration that still had that in it. So I just got it to clean all of those URLs and just cut it, and then instantly it worked. So the MCP interacting with the live database under very strict supervision. I don't know if that's possible with anything else, like a docs, for example.
Exactly. So this is the thing where nobody explains this, and that's why for the anti-M, oh wow, I almost said anti-MCC, anti-MCP crowd, we all want the outcome of being able to do this stuff without having to manually send and push data back and forth. I don't think anyone is like, oh, let's go back to clicking buttons. No, but nobody explains what the best way to go is. So CLI basically just means command line interface, the ability for you to, through the command line, send things to and from a platform. So like Supabase, for example, I was using their CLI yesterday. That plus good documentation on the tool and on the CLI in your project. So let's say like a Claude skill, or I think Supabase has similar stuff, or a markdown file, really, for that matter. It accomplishes the same thing, supposedly using less context. Probably using less context. I'm not denying that. But finally, literally as of yesterday, I'm like, oh, I see the alternative. I get it now. It now. Like right now, MemberStack doesn't have a CLI. We have a MCP, and that's the best way to use it. And it works flawlessly. Some things just don't work well as MCPs. Like the Webflow MCP, I need to try it. I'm going to say right now, I haven't used it in about a month and a half, almost 2 months. And I need to, because they have made some updates. But have you tried it?
I haven't, no. I do all my dev in Webflow, and then with ChatGPT or Cursor to, I'm copy pasting data attributes and that kind of stuff to target stuff. I haven't looked into how to set up the project to get it to understand the context of stuff. That's probably a good unlock.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Have you got it to know, say you want to animate a hero section of a website and you put data attributes and everything. Can you, with the Webflow MCP, say, just look at the hero section, get all the data attributes and animate it like this, and then it will spit out GSAP code?
No, that's the problem. Like from my experience, it passes. Okay, so picture this. Like Webflow JSON. So like if you copy a hero section in Webflow, there's a bunch of JSON in your clipboard, like a lot of JSON, a ton of JSON. Just it's like these are the class names, these are the styles, these are the breakpoints. There's a lot of data, right? And the Webflow MCP, it passes this stuff back and forth to, I use Claude Code, but whatever you're using, back and forth from the AI to Webflow to AI to Webflow. And so it literally it starts spinning in circles and not knowing what to do. And like halfway through a task, it starts repeating it. Again, they have made improvements. I'm not saying that's how it is now, but like from my testing of it, that was the issue that I had. And so I hope with Webflow in the near future, it becomes that I can build stuff the same way that I build stuff in Claude Code. That website, if I could have just prompted that Webflow site into existence and then edited it visually and use Webflow CMS, that's my dream. That's the goal.
That definitely was my dream before. Now I'm getting so used to this Cursor workflow that it almost seems like installing any additional packages is going to be a liability for these kinds of projects anyway. Because then if there's another dependency, and I'm trying to limit the amount of dependencies I have to the point of Cursor, is that instead of having to install a package, sometimes you could just get it to create something that does it. And so then there's less security issue. There's not Webflow is great with security, but less dependency issues where it's like there's a dependency mismatch here or whatever. I just don't want to even have to think about it. I did it once where I had to update a project from like Svelte to Svelte 4 and then Svelte Kit to another version of Svelte Kit, and thankfully with Cursor, it knows the dependencies and it can go to the docs and stuff and pull it and figure out which ones break and then find replacements for the ones that aren't compatible anymore. Because that, for me, prior to Cursor was hell. And I was like, I'm kind of scarred from that experience. I'm like, let's just minimal dependencies. And the main benefit that I would want from the Webflow MCP or Webflow AI development would be, I think Timothy Ricks recently released like an AI thing that has context of it, knows the IDs and the attributes. That looks really cool. That was what I was kind of imagining would be like a native implementation.
I gotta try that out. I've seen a couple things. I have to try the latest updates to MCP. I have to try, there's a new Claude skill for Webflow. I saw very briefly what Timothy Ricks made, and I hear some people talking about it. I got to keep up to date with this stuff. But I agree. It's like the farther that I go, the less and less I'm like, I would love to be using Webflow because it's getting easier and easier and easier. And I'm, in that sense, project by project, pulled away from the ecosystem. And that's why I think, and my message to the Webflow team is like, tick, 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 tick. Because, the better other things get and the easier it becomes to not use Webflow. For example, Webflow made hosting trivial back in the day. Like it used to be difficult to know where to host your site, custom site.
Vercel, Netlify, it's just super easy.
Yeah, exactly. But now, like I use for hosting pretty much anything Vercel, and it's again trivial. It's so easy. Yeah. And so, I hope Webflow continues on this path because I love what Webflow is. I love what Webflow brought me. I love the Webflow ecosystem, the community, the team. I love
through it.
Literally, they're so great. Like I've worked in different communities. Let's say, like I've been involved in the WordPress community, the Webflow community, the just broader marketing community, and like the Webflow community is amazing. The people that you meet, like 99% of people that I've met who are part of the Webflow community are the kind of people that I would like love to just sit down and have a drink with, like get together with in Italy when you come back to Italy. Like they're just awesome people, right? And I really I want to keep that. I want to hold on to that. So yeah, it's an interesting time, man, because at the end of the day, like I just built a site that would have taken me so long to build in Webflow without touching Webflow, the skill that I've been developing since, only Webflow, like 2018, 2019, I am using less and less and less, right? And so you have developers who are like kind of, self-conscious about getting replaced and their skills becoming obsolete and stuff like that. I don't think a lot of people understand that, like, we feel the exact same way. And we're seeing this happen in front of our eyes. But I think, there's two ways to go about that. There's the denial route and there's the acceptance route. I hope that we can stick around here as members of the Webflow community and we're not in 5 years just like gone from Webflow, because I love Webflow and I want to stick around. Yeah.
Me too. It's fantastic. And I think to your point, that meta skills of like developing the taste, knowing how to structure projects in a good way, like all of the variables and classes and inheritance that you learn through Webflow, that kind of cascades into full stack software development as well. Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit more abstract with the full stack stuff with API routes, but the principles are the same. And I think that moving into this new paradigm that we're in, as you said before, Webflow, when you found it 7 years ago and you're like, this is the thing, this was like the huge unlock, and it's like that there's the next new unlock, and the meta skills of not needing to know exactly how to put that thing there or what to create, but knowing what needs to go there, and how to articulate it, as you said before, that, and then knowing how to keep the project structured in a way that's going to be easy to maintain and scale are kind of the two big skills, and the rest of it's just oversight. So
exactly,
taste and project architecture, I'd say.
Yep, that is huge. And I think anyone watching this, especially Webflow developers, feeling that way, like I can look at this two ways. I can look at this and say, in a big way, the skill that I've spent so long learning has been, in many ways, not entirely obviously, but made obsolete. I can look at that and I could be upset about it. Or I can look at all of the things that I've learned from being a Webflow developer and from continuing to be a Webflow developer and understand that that's the reason why I'm able to do this so efficiently. It's the same thing with software development. Just because writing code itself is being, more and more and more made obsolete, not that it is right now, but that's the direction that we're heading in. That's not like, all the skills that you've learned are gone. In order to translate what a client wants, what your company wants, project manager, whatever, into working useful code, that requires an ability to think and to extrapolate, to solve problems, and to think about edge cases that make you a superhuman when given these products. And it's the same thing for developers and for Webflow developers. And so really, I think we're at the forefront of being able to build things in this new way. and I'm super, super happy about it. Whereas I
Me
see
too.
some people who are like, no, AI, no. Webflow sites built the way that we've been building them for 5 years. That's going to be the way it is. This is all a fad. Like,
With the AI stuff, like I've had ups and downs with how I'm feeling about how it is going to impact my life. Because obviously I built Rapid 301, right? And this was built in a time in which there was no cursor and you couldn't upload files to ChatGPT and it couldn't write Python code and then run it in the browser. And for anyone watching this, Rapid 301 is 301 redirect automation software. And ChatGPT is a really good way of doing that for small sites. Like it does break in larger sites where it doesn't have the context, but as Gen AI is improving, it is cannibalizing products out there, a lot of them, including one that I built. And I had this moment with it where I was like, do I double down on this or like an integrate AI or like what do I do? And I wouldn't call it a feeling of like hopelessness.
yeah,
Generally, it was more like, is this product like a hopeless thing to continue? Is it something that is just going to be fully cannibalized in a certain amount of time? And then, well, what do I do with the hundreds of hours that I put into developing this? And
yeah,
what I did with that was take all of those skills and like appreciate that. And Rapid, it's still profitable, which is kind of cool.
yeah,
But I do see that as one of the many things that will eventually just Gen AI will take over. But there's also this huge opportunity with the Gen AI that's getting so much more powerful with Opus, where you can find problems in areas of unloved or unsexy industries that people haven't been thinking about for ages, that might have an older demographic that's not aware of what's possible. I often forget that we're in a bubble, like AI Twitter and Webflow Twitter, and that whole ecosystem there is like, it's very easy to feel that you're like 10 steps behind, but most people are just getting people like Grok to put people in bikinis. So, there's,
like literally, they're not
and
involved in this.
yeah. And the huge opportunity, I think, is in finding people, maybe they're clients that need a Webflow site, but they've got a business problem that can be solved with AI that they don't know can be solved with AI. And maybe it's a problem that a lot of other businesses in that niche have too. So if you solve it for them, I'm not going to say it's now trivial to build something that's, multi-user and that, but if you take the skills that you've got and the taste that you've got from, these years of building in Webflow, and then figure out how to build something in a scalable way or that's easy to maintain, there's huge opportunity to bring those skills forward and kind of get a foothold in the next paradigm, essentially. And I'm still between the two paradigms. Like my main income streams come from Webflow design development work. Like I still love it, and the quality of like the things that you can build and the experience of building in Webflow is amazing for client sites. And then for ideas, the rate at which you can get them to a point where you can test is also just completely unlocked now. So there's kind of two games that can be played at the moment, and
Yeah,
I'm using one to buy the time to fund the other, essentially. And I think that it's probably a good idea for anyone that's in the Webflow space to start playing around with these other tools, because it just unlocks, even just the way of thinking about things changes. Like I would never have thought to do like a little interaction or animation like that of a product. Now, there could be a world in which you just create that in Webflow, create that in Cursor and then iframe it in, or pull it
yeah,
in with like a code snippet or something like that. So one doesn't need to destroy the other, and they can kind of be used in conjunction with each other, and they both have their strengths in different areas, at least for the time
exactly.
being.
I think
Yeah.
that is gold. I think that is the exact way to look at it. As certain doors are being closed, other doors are being opened. And I think everyone needs to be experimenting and seeing how they can work this stuff into their workflow, and not to deny it, but to accept it and see how you can make yourself better with it. Like, I think the people throughout history who fall behind are the people who are focused very specifically on their tool and not on the outcome of that tool. So another
Mm,
thing that I say pretty frequently is like, imagine back in a day where you've got a guy who builds houses and he's like, I'm the screwdriver guy. Nobody's better than me at using a
yeah.
screwdriver. And then someone comes around, they're like, look at this new thing. It's a mechanical screwdriver, also known as a drill. No. That my action with the wrist is just better. There's gonna come a time,
Yeah.
screwdriver's not gone anywhere. You've got a
How many
screwdriver.
frames can be put up?
Exactly. Like, but we're able now, if your goal is to build a house, you're going to use, you know, a drill, a nail gun, like these new technologies to do certain things. And the screwdriver still has its place and it's not going anywhere. People ask me, like, oh, is Webflow done? Like, you think Webflow is like out in the next year? No, dude. People are using Drupal in 2026. People are going to be using Drupal in like 2035. Webflow's not going anywhere no matter what they do. And your skills are also not going anywhere. But now you can build new stuff that you were never able to build before. And the final thing that I want to mention about that is probably a lot of people are like I said, I'm not an ideas guy. I never know what to build. I make all these videos, like I built a to-do list app. I built this, like the typical like joke developer stuff, just showing people how to do it. But like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I build? I have these superpowers. What do I build? And I have a quick recommendation for you and for anyone that I'm actually going to make a video about this specifically. I had Claude essentially interview me in order to not have Claude come up with an idea, but in order for Claude to pull an idea out of me. I was explaining, I'm like, okay, I want to try out, in this case, it was Supabase. I'm going to be trying out a lot of different things. So I want to be trying out Supabase. I want to do something that's going to, you know, push it to the limits, to say, I want to be able to use it, experience it, all of that stuff. I want to build something useful. And I want to build something that I can use either in my work or my personal life. My recommendation to anyone is, if you yourself aren't the target market for a tool, don't build it. Don't think there's a gap in the market and so I'm going to capitalize on it. No, that's not going to happen. If you're not the target market, you have literally no idea how to build a useful tool. And so that's what I said to Claude. I said, help me come up with my own idea of something that I'm going to build that's going to be useful to me in my daily life. And it responds, it's like, what's something that you have to do that you don't like doing? Very obvious question, you know, like there's nothing crazy right now. It's like, don't think about it. First thing that comes to mind. I had on my list of to-dos today, it's like, check my emails. So I'm like, I don't know, checking my emails. It's like, why don't you like checking your emails? I'm like, because it's like 95% stuff that I don't care about and 4% stuff that I care about and 1% urgent stuff. So I need to check, but I don't want to check. And it often is a waste of time. It's like, all right, what do you check? I'm like, well, I check Slack every day. It's like, okay, so is there room for a product
so
to be
that's how that idea came to be.
that brings your emails into Slack? And I'm like,
yeah,
dude, yes, that's amazing. Like literally a 2-minute conversation, not saying what should I build today, but just trying to have Claude like almost be like my therapist to coax this like thing that was already in me out, was super cool. It was super cool. And I think this is a super useful tool once I get security certification, unfortunately. But dude, it's crazy. And so this has been awesome. What I'm going to wrap this up with saying is I'm going to get you that Claude Code guest pass. I think it gives you a week free of Max, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. Awesome.
So activate that. Maybe like, I don't know if you work weekends or anything like that, but activate that when you get to use the whole thing. And what I would love to do is speak to you again with your thoughts, good or bad. Like I am the second something comes out that I think is better than Claude Code, I'm gone. I don't have any loyalty to Claude Code.
But I got loyalty to outcome.
Exactly that. And I think that's the way to be. And I think that's the way everyone should be. We all inherently, no matter how much we want to, like I have this inherent interior loyalty to Webflow because of the amount of hours I poured into the product, the community, the sites I built and all this stuff. That's going to be there internally, no matter what. But when I think about I think left brain is the way to say it, like what I should actually be focusing on. It's like, okay, forget Webflow, forget Claude Code. You're a builder. You build stuff. And you're going to use whatever allows you to build the best and the fastest. And so I think Claude Code is going to blow your mind. Again, Claude Code in Cursor, like
that. Have you got a tutorial for that? Is that have you got a video on that?
Okay, so here's what you can do. There's actually a plugin, like a VS Code plugin or extension, I think they're called. You could use that, but you open Claude Code by just popping open a terminal and typing Claude. And so like you go to your project root folder, click terminal, and then just type in Claude once you've installed it, of course, and you're up and running. It's that easy.
And you prompt in the terminal.
Yep. So it opens like a chat. It's an ugly UI straight up. But it shows like a little like arrow, like this is where you're typing, and then like the text streams in, and that's how it works. It's super simple, again, UI is ugly. You're literally prompting in a terminal, but like not in command, in plain English, same as you do with Cursor. Like
with Cursor. Does it track changes and stuff in Cursor as well?
Yeah, I think the extension is the kind of thing where like once it's going to make changes, it like pops open the changes like it does in Cursor, and you can see like the red, what's going to be deleted, the green, what's going to be added.
Yeah.
So I think that might bring a ton of value. But yeah, the combination, like you need an IDE, man. If you want to know what's going on in your projects, if you want to be serious, you need an IDE. I honestly, when I'm building, my IDE is minimized and I open it when I need to. I'm not going to say I'm watching it all the time, but like you got to have one. And
interesting.
Yeah. So
I mean, I've got the files open. I'm like digging through everything.
Yeah. And there's all like, I know people who build some incredible stuff who literally put Claude on like dangerously skip permissions and like walk away from their computer. And on the other hand, it freaks me out too. I can't do that. I'm between that and where you're at. I'm like babysitting Claude one window at a time, watching what's going on. But my IDE sees my eyes a few times a day. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it becomes easier with Claude Code. So man, really, I'm going to send this to you like right now in just a second. I'm super excited. Let me know. Like it could be early next week. It could be in 2 weeks. Whenever you get the chance to use it and you have some thoughts, I want to get like guy who's been using Cursor's first thoughts on Claude Code after using it for a week. That would be awesome. You're going to love it.
And probably meet after, I don't know how long we've been on Slack and Twitter.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth, I feel like, for a couple years at this point. So awesome to meet you. We're going to be definitely talking more in the future. This has been great. And I'm just looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you. I'm going to send you that guest pass right now. Take it easy, Luke. Bye-bye.